Hello, it's me, and I guess I just wanted to do some sort of explanation video for my new Land Rider track, New Machines, and let's get to it. This part is just copy pasted squares. The little pulsating part is offset, and then they're just copy pasted and moved down. This is just some scenery. The circuit part is just, I guess, partially animated but not really animated. They're just copied and put onto the next frame to last on the screen a little longer. And they do that over and over again. And there's a lot of different patterns, so that it looks sort of, I guess, randomized when in reality there's only like 5 different variations. And I guess the next part, which is probably one of the most significant, is this part with these, I guess, pulsating square backgrounds. And this was actually animated using a macro, and I'm going to get into how to do that. So basically, I guess the biggest key point of animating with a macro is that you sort of want your animation to be recursive, and when I say that, I guess I mean that it is pretty much crucial if you're using a macro to have the animation be the same sort of state in the next frame so that you can repeat the same actions over and over again. For this animation, I used 2 different macros. One to make the squares rotate to the right, slice, and then go to the next, copy themselves to the next frame, and then another one to do the exact same thing but rotating to the left instead of the right. So that's how you get this sort of, I guess, pulsating and moving to the right and the left sort of thing. And so yeah, I was originally going to use a Python script for the macro, and then I guess I ended up just using this really cool program. It's called Keyboard Maestro, and I don't think it is on Windows, but it works really well for Mac. And I guess I'll get into how to use it later after. Yeah. So after that, after this part is these another set of squares that rotate. I think they're back and forth. Oh, the layers turn off. This layer is super laggy, so I have it turned off all the time. Um, yeah, so these pretty much follow the same principle. They rotate back and forth, and they sort of create the illusion that they're scaling up because I have the camera zooming in, but it sort of looks like they're growing, and that's pretty cool, although they're not actually growing. And then after this is, yeah, just more frame by frame stuff, except it's not really that complicated. It's just copy pasting to the next frame. I didn't use a macro for any of this. And then there's the final sections. This is just the same boxes, and on each of the beat I have these moved down and then back up and copy and pasted to make them look bolded. Nothing too complicated. And these stars come onto the screen halfway through the last part, and these are also using a macro, and they are recursive even though they're changing on the frame because the amount that they grow by is always the same, which I don't think it's very much because it's very quick. I guess it's very easy to get them to grow very quickly because they're like 40 frames a second and they're on screen for like 10 seconds. So they pretty much grow exponentially. And yeah, I guess the process is just sort of um they come onto the screen and then they're sliced over the boxes and then they're grown. And then and then I just did that 2 more times to get the multiple layers of stars. Everything after that is just sort of wrapping up the track. This is just the stars are slice modded on top of the black screen, and shade modded, or yeah, they're slice modded, and then these are just these squares are, I guess they look animated because the distance between them is the distance between each frame, and that distance doesn't vary because these are blue lines. None of these accelerate the rider. And yeah, it pretty much just gets to the end with this pretty cool ending scenery, I think. And so yeah, I guess I'll just sort of go to a new track to explain how to use a macro. So basically, if I just sort of go to, like, I don't know, 20 seconds is pretty good to get the rider sort of far away from itself. There we go, that's pretty good. And so what I can do is say I have this square that I want it to grow, and I'm just gonna do this to get the square sort of precise, because I think they look kind of ugly if they're not. And so yeah, say I have this square. I want to come up with some sort of pattern that I can use to make it sort of grow on each frame. And so what I'm going to do is, first I'm just going to copy it, then I'm going to go to the next frame, and then I'm going to center the rider on the frame. I'm going to paste it, and then I'm going to scale it, say by, I don't know, just like 1.1 is pretty good. And then yeah, I think that's pretty repeatable. And and slice it, of course. And then yeah, I can go to this keyboard, Maestro, and it pretty much records everything that I do. So if I copy, go to the next frame and paste it 1.1 and slice commit. Okay, well, it didn't remove anything, so it didn't really do much, but okay, I guess I'm actually going to re-record that because it is not slicing anything, and I guess I don't really need to slice it. And so yeah, what I can do is I can copy this, go to the next frame, center around the rider, scale 1.1, and then yeah, that is pretty good. I think that's pretty repeatable. And then I delete this little last one. And I have this from earlier, so I'm just going to delete that because the slice mod didn't work, and that's something that happens. These take a little trial and error, but it's definitely a lot faster than doing all this yourself. And what I'm doing now, I'm just copy and pasting it so that it works a bunch of time. And so yeah, the key that is binded to this hotkey is F7. And so if I press F7, then it's just going to do the exact same thing that I did and a lot faster. And it works really well. It looks really cool. And so yeah, that's how I made the stars, the squares, and the other squares. And so yeah, if I play the track, you can see the squares grow like perfectly, and it looks really cool. And I think this is an idea that's, I guess, largely, or it hasn't really been explored much, and I think it has a ton of potential for future tracks. And so yeah, that's really all I have to say about New Machines. I'm pretty proud of it, and I'm excited to see how other people can use the same techniques that I use in the future.